Hey guys, thank you for joining me here at Talisa Aquarist. Today I'm wanting to discuss with you which substrate is better, gravel or sand. Even if you don't have a planted tank, just which substrate is better all around. This is a question that I have asked myself and others for the past several years, and I've done gravel tanks, I've done sand tanks, I have sand tanks right now, I have gravel and sand tanks. So I just thought I would share some thoughts with you guys on it. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. In the past, I've done tanks that were just gravel. The reason I didn't use sand was because sand was frustrating to work with. When you do water changes, it was hard to vacuum sand when you clean the tank. And as you can see, I have gravel here in the goldfish tank. But I also have sand and aqua soil underneath the gravel, so I have layers underneath there. But I always just had gravel because I didn't like working with sand. However, as I've started transitioning over to ecosystem tanks, I have started to realize something that I did not realize before. Up here I have a sand tank with aqua soil underneath it. There's Sebastian, my beta. And over here, I have a gravel tank with sand and aqua soil underneath that. As you can see, both tanks are thriving. Both substrates are working out great, right? But something I have begun to notice is when you use sand, see all this mulm that's sitting on top? If you have gravel on top of there, all that mulm just filters through the gravel and sits on top of the sand, which, I like that, right? But I've begun realizing when you have bottom feeders in the tank, they help break down that mulm so that it can better filter through the sand, and then the sand can better filter the tank. I don't use filters for most of my tanks. The sand is what filters my tank. And so when you have gravel on top of the sand, you're really slowing down that filtration process, and the bottom feeders don't get as much nutrition. Another thing that happens is when you have gravel, when you have a betta fish like this, their feed can fall down into the rocks and the bottom feeders can't eat it and the betta fish can't reach their food. So I would say sand is the best. I will only use sand in the future, most likely. I do have some tanks with gravel in it like this, and I could take the gravel out. It would be kind of a pain though. But I did the gravel in these tanks before realizing the benefits of only using sand and not capping that sand off with gravel. Yeah, it can be a little more difficult when you do water changes, but this tank right here, I've never even done a water change on it. I'm just careful when I cap it off with water, it needs more water added to it, but I'm just careful when I add in water, and it's not an issue. I definitely like sand better. It's better for shrimp, it's better for betta fish. If you have a goldfish, sand is great, but I did use gravel with this goldfish and it's not an issue. I don't have a lot of bottom dwellers in there because the goldfish would probably eat them. If I added shrimp or snail, I guess he probably wouldn't eat snails, but yeah, I would definitely go with sand. Down here I have sand as well. It's black, so it doesn't really look like sand, but this little Cory is loving it. But yeah, I definitely like sand a lot better. I've used I've had tanks in the past that only had gravel in them with plants, and the plants took a long time to grow, and oftentimes they would melt off when you first added them because the gravel wouldn't hold the nutrients and the bacteria needed for the plants to thrive. They would just be filtered right back out into the water, and then a carbon filter would remove that. So I do not use any filters anymore. I just have sand. The sand filters the tank, and the plants benefit from the sand. I also have aqua soil at the bottom, so it helps the plants to thrive. I literally set this tank up I don't know, a week or two ago. I don't have to worry about the plants melting off. The plants already have a lot of growth, and it just works great. All the fish are thriving and they love tanks like this. I highly recommend setting up ecosystem tanks. I recently made videos where I was telling people Like, oh, you can do gravel on top of the aqua soil and then add sand, or you can cap off the sand with gravel. I no longer am recommending that. I just recommend using aqua soil and then sand, or just sand if you're not wanting to do a planted tank. Because even if you don't have a planted tank, sand is great for helping filter like the tank. I'm not sure why you wouldn't do a planted tank unless you just had, maybe you have a fish that eats plants. I don't know. Sand is great. I definitely recommend sand all the way around for any tank. I would love to hear your thoughts below on this. As always, thank you guys for watching, and if this was helpful advice for you, please like and subscribe.